Hello again. It is now certain that a third of the British population has been disenfranchised, at least for the foreseeable future. Local elections are scheduled to be held in May, and at least 20 local authorities have asked the government to cancel their elections for various reasons. The elections in Essex were cancelled last year, but it was promised that this May a new mayor for Greater Essex would be elected. This election has now been postponed until 2028 at the earliest. Of course, elections have been cancelled or delayed before in this country. During the Second World War, no elections were held, and some local elections were also delayed during the COVID epidemic. Never before, though, have elections been cancelled simply because the government in power is afraid that they might lose them. The current round of cancelled elections means that in some districts, councillors will be serving for 7 years, with voters not having the chance to remove them during that time. This is unprecedented in peacetime. The problem which immediately arises is that if you forbid people the opportunity to exercise their democratic rights to remove councillors or MPs, then you open the way to their attempting to remove them differently. We've seen what happens in other countries when democracy is denied to those anxious for change in their country, and it is not a pretty sight. I don't believe that anybody wants to see violence or bloodshed from the streets of Britain. This is, however, what is risked when ordinary folk are not allowed to change their elected leaders. A situation whereby local authorities can function for 7 years without the council taxpayers being given a chance to vote means simply that democracy in Britain has failed. It is not working. This failure has not been caused by some sudden and unexpected catastrophe like the onset of war. It is part of a deliberate strategy by the present government to prevent people expressing their opinion about that government and its leader. I don't think that I can ever remember a situation like this arising here. Lord knows we've had prime ministers before who behaved in pretty awful ways and showed contempt for the usual way that we do things in this country, but none have dared to cancel elections like this simply because they fear that they will lose them. This action crosses a line and leads us into uncharted territory. Will the man in the street simply shrug and say, "Oh, well, I don't even know who my local councillor is, so it doesn't really make any difference to me"? Will we really roll over to that extent? If not, then what options are open to us since democracy itself has been banned? In other countries, this is the kind of thing which might lead to violence and disorder, but that isn't really the way in Britain. At least it hasn't been the way while we were able to vote people out and change both local and national government by casting our votes in regular elections. Now we are faced with the problem of how to remove people who refuse to allow the usual peaceful means of undertaking the task, that is to say, waiting for the next election. There are not going to be any elections for a third of the people in this country, and what they might choose to do about that is anybody's guess. Forbid democracy, and you open the door to all manner of alternatives, and none of them are attractive.